Do.
So have you noticed your car leaking?
Me, no.
Okay. Well, if you do not ignore it.
It's too bad, because that's in general how I handle most issues. I ignore them until they go away. And unfortunately, as our Monday morning mechanic David Rogers from Keller Brothers Auto Repair is joining us live to explain, if you ignore some of these problems, they won't go away, but your car might. Hi, David.
Hey, how are you, Tom? Hi, Vita. I'm here to tell you you're absolutely right. Your car might go away, or worse yet, it doesn't go away, and you have to keep it and pay all the big bucks to fix what failed after it leaked. You know, the first thing I was going to tell you about today, I'm going to show you a little diagram here so you have an idea of what on earth I'm taking apart here. But we have an axle here, a rear axle in the car, and then you have like your rear end of the car right here. And this little unit has fluid in it. And what we have today is at the brake components, we have a leak, and I'm going to show you what happens when you have that problem. Basically, the fluid goes bad. The fluid should look like this. It should be nice and thick. It's like an 80, 90 weight fluid. It's for the rear end of the vehicle. When it goes bad, you know, you can see that that looks a little different. It gets actually a little waterier, and it actually doesn't protect anything any longer and becomes caustic. Well, what we have here in that axle I was showing you about, this is your brake rotor, and it sits right underneath where your wheel is, and it sits like that with the axle coming through it. In this hole where you see this is where the axle fits, and there's a seal. Now, here's the seal that we took out of the unit that we're going to show you today. The seal failed, and it was leaking fluid. You can see that's just not very attractive. What you have inside this brake rotor is actually your emergency brake shoes. And the customer came in and told me, hey, this car won't hold on the emergency brake on a hill anymore, and I don't understand what's going on. Well, I'll tell you what happened. When that seal went bad, the fluid was leaking out onto these brake components. And what these are, they're little shoes that sit inside there. You can see the springs. And when you use the emergency brake, it locks the shoe out like this against the rotor, and it holds the car's weight. Well, see, this is a new shoe, and that's the way they're supposed to look. And there's the one that's soaked in oil. You can see that this is just trash. Well, anything covered in oil is not going to hold the weight of a car, no matter how good the springs are. Some pretty small springs to be fighting the weight of a car in an oily brake shoe. So the idea is, when you have a small leak, if you go ahead and fix it, you won't have to replace a bunch of components. That leak might have cost a couple $100 to fix. But because it was left to go until it soaked the shoes, what we ended up with is about a $500 or $600 problem. Now, it could have gotten worse. Had the customer continued to let it go when they were advised, hey, this is leaking onto your brake shoes, then it would have taken out the entire rear end component, this right here, and we would have been into $3,000 or $4,000.
That's too much.
Oh my goodness, it's way too much. Any kind of leak is going to cost you a lot more money if you don't get it replaced or repaired. Anytime you see any kind of leak, if somebody tells you, oh, you just keep adding oil or just keep adding fluid, that's a myth. Don't let them tell you that. Folks, leaks are the only sign you get sometimes before it costs you thousands of dollars to repair. Get them fixed.
Hey, David, I notice you often have test tubes, and you shake some fluid for us. You ever think one week of bringing in some beakers?
Well, you know, Tom, I could be pleased to bring in some beakers. Will you bring the ice?
Oh, okay. Now we're talking. All right. David, thanks as always. We'll see you next week.
I better.